Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. Tracey Thompson is going to blow the roof off this place in just a moment here, and she is a local Las Vegas native. So super, super grateful that we're doing this in the same state, because it used to be California for me. Now I'm in Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada, and she's in Henderson. I'm in Summerlin area. It is beautiful. Love life. And just know, for me, I just really want to touch on this, the power of in-person relationships, getting together, meeting up for coffee, like that is so important. So wherever you're at, building your online business, impacting the world, just really make a commitment to yourself. How can I be around people who lift me up, like Tracey, who inspire me to be a better version of myself? How can I get around more of those people in person? Because that energy, it really is contagious. It really does make a difference. In like live events and seminars and workshops have made such a difference for me in really believing in myself and having the confidence. So I just wanted to start off by sharing that, because it's been a huge part of my journey. And I'm going to introduce Tracey in just a second. Before that, let's make a couple announcements. You're a world changer, and I want to support you however I can. If that's coming on the 12-hour marathon and sharing your message with our audience, I would love to explore that, get a conversation scheduled, see if it works for both of us. And then also, I love helping people launch their own podcasts as well. If you're someone who wants to do that, we have another podcast launch mastermind starting in the third week of July. And when this podcast comes out, it might be past that point. So just send me a message if you want to get in on the next one. And ultimately, I just want you to know I'm here to help you become your greatest possible self. So however I can do that, just let me know. You can contact me, Chris at beyourgps.com. That's the email, facebook.com/th3burns, or Instagram at IamMillionaireChris. Would love to hear from you and hear how you are growing yourself into your GPS. Next, I'm going to share about the iTunes review of the week. And this week it's by Sports123789. And Sports says, awesome show and host. Love Chris's infectiously positive attitude. Inspirational and uplifting. Thanks so much, Sports. I appreciate you. And if you want to give us a review, definitely go to beyourgps.com/iTunes while you're there. I can't think of any better way to keep yourself supercharged, inspired, learning about all kinds of different areas of life and ways for you to grow yourself. So definitely subscribe while you're there. Subscribe to Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Get all the latest episodes and updates to your phone or device, and keep growing yourself and stepping into your GPS. Looking forward to growing with you on the journey even more. I am going to introduce Tracey in just a second here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, because we're going to be diving into some gold to help you stay aligned, to help you stay congruent and totally empowered by saying yes to your yes. And we're going to figure out exactly what that means with this conversation with Tracey in just a second. So make sure you stay all the way through till the end, because one idea has the power to transform the rest of your life. Let's introduce Tracey, and then we'll bring her on the screen. Tracey Thompson is a speaker, business consultant, and conscious entrepreneur. She's a co-owner of Femme Empire and creator of Business, Health, Body, Wealth, Conscious Conversations That Convert, and the Yes Method. Tracey's passion and life purpose came into clear focus after her brush with death in the form of stage 3 cancer 6 years ago. She walked away from conventional medicine, her prior career, and life as she knew it, to embark on an epic journey of self-empowered healing and spiritual awakening. Tracey said yes to her inner yes, and within 6 months healed herself with no chemo and no radiation. Now, she teaches entrepreneurs and leaders globally how to harness the power of their own yes journey to make a bigger impact and difference in the world. And we're so freaking blessed to have her here with us today. Tracey, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman?
I am ready. Woohoo! Welcome to the Purple Zen Den.
I love it. We're just in Zen right now. We're totally like
That's
illuminated.
right. We're in the flow.
Oh my gosh, so awesome. Tracey, I appreciate you being here. And we're going to dive right into the theme, okay? Today's theme is, does your why make you cry? And Tracey, I want to hear what your perspective on this particular topic is, how it's impacted your journey.
Oh my goodness, the why, absolutely. Well, why should be behind your yes, right? What you're saying yes to should definitely come from that deeper inner GPS, your inner compass, that why, that deep why. And if you haven't connected fully with that yet, then this is the time. This is a very powerful place and space that we're in collectively, as a collective consciousness, individually. The power on the earth right now is just crackling and popping with change. And man, this is the time. So if you're ready, really ready to fully step into your ultimate power, your full power, it comes from that inner why.
Tracey,
Yes.
you're a badass. I'm already loving this conversation. This is gold. So yes, it's like if we get to know what is our alignment, what is a heck yes for us, what is like our soul's highest expression and truth, like we really get to dive into that and be aware of that. And I know we're going to be diving into some incredible conversation around that, Tracey. Before we go any further though, I want to educate people on who you are as a professional. Tell people who you are, what you stand for, and then after that we'll dive back into your journey and talk about how we got to where we are today with you. Okay?
Yes.
Cool. So professionally, who are you? What do you stand for?
So as you said in my intro, I am co-owner of Femme Empire, and Femme Empire is our company. Angela Giles, who's my amazing, beautiful partner,
Awesome.
business partner, who lives here in Henderson, also.
Sweet.
She and I launched Femme Empire, really birthed out of this place of we are the La Femmes. We really talk to both men and women. We started out really this adventure speaking primarily to female entrepreneurs, but we really started realizing that this message of self-empowerment, of really truly being in an aligned business that is going to not only make you happy, right, and create freedom, all the amazing things that come with being an entrepreneur, along with the challenges, right? But to have it mean something, to be aligned with your mission and get in touch with that. And that was a universal message. And so we opened it up, we invited men in, we have an amazing online community in La Femme Empire, yes to millions, group, Facebook group. And we primarily focus on digital marketing and helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you said, the time right now for people to be aware of who they are, to step into their power, to step into their abundance, saying yes to freaking millions. Hallelujah. You want to make the biggest impact and live the most soul expansive journey that you possibly can. Yeah. Wealth is a total freaking vehicle to make that happen. And an aspect of that a lot of people were really on our conscious evolution and healing journey, especially around money. So I love that you're championing that and telling people and teaching people how they can really step into that. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. And entrepreneurialism is an expression of your personal growth path.
Nice.
Whether you're doing it consciously or not, it is a reflection. And I think there's no better way to apply your personal growth than in an entrepreneurial endeavor, no matter how small or how big. It's a great vehicle.
And Tracey, what I love about you as well is like you're really grounded in reality and like no BS. Like I'm gonna give it to you, like I'm gonna kick your butt in a positive, empowering, uplifting way. And you also have the spirituality. You have the deepness and like conscious evolution and journey. I just love how you're wielding both of those aspects to meet people where they're at and give them what they need to keep growing. It's beautiful.
Yes, and we're holistic people, so we need to have all of those pieces in place. We can't get so out of balance in one direction or another. We're going to talk about that today as well as it relates to your yes, right? It's very easy sometimes to get so sort of tunnel vision focused on just one aspect of our life, business, whatever, that we lose sight of the holistic view. So one of the things about my healing journey, my cancer healing journey, taught me that treating my life, my whole life, holistically was the key to my healing. So
wow,
it all comes around.
Let's dive back in and talk about, entrepreneurship, your career, and especially I know we'll get into the healing journey especially, but how did you get to that point of needing to heal in the first place?
Well, I came up through corporate.
Yeah.
I got into the corporate world pretty early. I started out as an artist. I have a fashion design degree,
Wow.
which I started to launch. And then the first Gulf War started. Nobody was hiring. And I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do? I got to cool my jet somewhere. I got to do something until, until the industry picks up.
Yeah.
And someone gave me a sales job at a car dealership. And I thought, oh God, being a car salesman, right? And that was back in the day when women didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I started my sales career that way, and I was hooked. Once you make that kind of money and you can influence, like it's kind of like a little bit of entrepreneurialism because you show up, and the only way that I ever really made any money is if I truly showed up and I honed my craft and I got better each day. So I loved sales for that reason. So I dove into the whole corporate, structure, really climbed the ladder, went into media sales, higher levels of selling at each, move upwards.
Yeah.
And it just got more competitive and more demanding, and it became less fun and less about really pursuing my best, and became more about fitting into corporate structure. And for my personality, that didn't sit well. I really make kind of a crappy employee. I don't make a good employee. I didn't realize that until, a few jobs at the end there where I was like, God, this is killing me. And when I'm not happy and I'm not in alignment, then things don't go well. Things just don't, even if they on the surface look good. So I went back to school and got my second bachelor's degree in business, and was going to relaunch my career and the whole thing. And that was when I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. Like, single mom, my daughter just turned 13. My elderly parents were needing more help. It was like one of those convergent times where, like, the worst possible timing. I didn't have any income because I relaunched my career. Yeah. So it was one of those, blast you, crack you wide open opportunities. And I realized, and I saw it really quickly, this is my chance. This is my chance to reinvent everything that hasn't been working. Now's the time to do it different. And I really chose a radically different path. I didn't know anybody back then that said no to their doctor.
Right.
Like, you just didn't do that. The way I was brought up was like, doctors were gods. Yep. And you didn't say no to God. You just didn't do that. So for me, there wasn't a lot of support. Everyone thought I was nuts. They thought I was signing my own death certificate. I had doctors.
What was it within you that was like, I know that this is the way. I know that there's a better way.
That's that, when you're talking about that inner compass and that inner why, right? I knew, just looking critically, and this is the interesting thing, when you start really waking up, especially to the bigger, deeper structures in our world, like the pharmaceutical industry, the healthcare system. And I never really needed to consider it because I was a pretty healthy person before, and I just didn't go to the doctor a whole lot. So I didn't know a lot. But once I started diving in, I realized that, holy moly, our whole cancer industry is not what it appears on the surface. And I just knew by researching the kind of barbaric radiation chemotherapy that they were recommending, that I might as well just give up, because the quality of life, they were saying that I could lose my ability to speak. I'd have to have speech therapy. And I speak for a living. There was no way I was going to do that and be able to take care of my family, my daughter, my parents, and so forth. So for me, it was going inward and saying, why am I really here? What am I really here to do? Am I here to go through this experience and have it break me down to absolute nothing? Or am I going to pick a different path? Am I going to take maybe a road less traveled for sure, but more in alignment with who I knew I was? And that gave me the fuel. That, despite all of the, adversity, that was my guiding light. I had to say yes to myself and what was true to me first.
So that was really that moment where you had to zoom out. You had to say, hey, something's not quite right here. Something's not quite aligned with my soul. And these are the results. These are the indicators, right? I think a lot of people take what happens to them as like permanent, as, judgment, as shame, as guilt, and all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of it can be seen as an indicator of, am I on track or off track with my soul, with my alignment, with my GPS? And it's like, you got woken up and you said, there's got to be a better way.
Absolutely. It woke me up in so many ways. I mean, it wasn't just a physical thing for me. It was such a life, spiritual life, opening, and really an opportunity. I now say that cancer is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. In a really weird, I would wish it on anybody, but for me, it gave me permission. It was interesting permission.
It was like the portal that you had to go through, so to speak, that you went through in this lifetime, so that you could open up your awareness and your perspective and your consciousness, your aliveness, your joy, what you focus on, and really living from your heart.
Yes, and quite frankly, manifesting miracles.
Yeah.
To heal yourself of stage 3 cancer, or stage 4 in some cases, now that I know lots of people that have healed themselves, that's miraculous. By standards, that's a miracle. That's something they can't explain exactly. They don't know how it happens, spontaneous remission, whatever they want to call it. It's something that is deeply spiritual in my mind. I think that it comes from a whole nother place, and your relationship to your body, your relationship to your life, and your ability to manifest. So my healing story comes along with a money story too. And you're talking about money, man, talk about life altering, forever changing moment, not just because of the money, but because of what it represented. The fact that money could come without hard work, without, so I was broke. I mean, I had nothing. I literally didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. And at the time, my elderly parents on a fixed income were loaning me money just to pay rent during this whole cancer thing. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I found a doctor, a holistic doctor, right there in my hometown. Who knew? Had no idea he even existed until this happened. Yeah. And people fly around the world to see him. And he was right in my backyard. See, miracles. And I went in to see him, and he said, here, it's $15,000 to do what we needed to do. And I'm like, might as well be 50. I don't know. I'm like, okay. So, and I had a doctor sit across from me and say, don't worry about the money. It always works out. A doctor say that to me. So, I might as well have had Yoda sitting across from me. It's like, what? Who says that as a doctor, right? So miracles started happening. He said, fill out this credit report, this credit app. I said, are you kidding me? Who would give me credit right now? I have no job. I've got cancer. Like, this is insane. He said, just do it. I did it. They started treatment that day. I was approved miraculously. And then within 30 days, I found a brochure, just one brochure, random brochure, that talked about selling a life insurance policy. And I happened to have a term life policy that was just about to expire. So it was almost done with its term. It had no value unless I died. And someone said, you can sell it. And I thought, wow, I had no idea. So long story short, and it's a great story, I got the call. The agent said, all right, you sitting down. We got good news and bad news. I said, give me the bad news first. He said, well, the bad news is it's going to take another 30 days. to get you the money. And I'm like, whatever, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
I was like, okay, okay. What's the good news? He said, the good news is they are offering you $427,000 cash for your policy, and it's tax free in the state of California.
What?
Right? And wow, like just holy moly.
Wow.
So, and the moral of this story is people say, oh, well, it's easy to be positive and upbeat when you have that much money. But here's the thing, that money didn't come until I made peace with myself. And I went in and I said yes to me, to my value without the money. In other words, I had to go deep. I had to go down the sort of the black hole with my God, and really look at what would happen. Could I really be me if I lost everything? I mean, I had to go there with myself. Yeah. What if it got worse? What if I got sicker? What if I lost my daughter? What if I lose my ability to take care of myself? What if I am basically worthless? What if I am homeless, dying in the middle of the street by myself? The whole thing, right? What if, would I still be me? And I had to wait. I tell the story of laying on the bathroom floor, asking these questions, going in with tears streaming down my face. I would seem like hours. And I finally said, yes, I would still be me. And then this voice said, but can you still love yourself and accept yourself fully? If that all happened, if you were penniless, if you were worthless by any standard in the world, could you still love yourself and accept yourself? And when I said yes to that, that's when everything shifted. That's when the voice, the universal great spirit said to me, then get up off the floor and go and do what is in your heart. You need to do. This is not the way that you're going to heal. You're going to heal your way. And all of that happened before the doctor, before the money, right? I had to, in faith, believe that the answers would come. The universe would bring, the abundance, the resources, the people, the doctor, there is such a cast of characters in my story of all these synergies that occurred in order for me to have the optimal environment for me to heal. So that was my deep inner yes, that first yes.
Oh my gosh, I love this. This is so freaking powerful, Tracey. And, I hate to say it, but a lot of people's journey really begins and becomes awakened when they hit that rock bottom. And I'm constantly seeking for what can people do before they get to that point? How can we equip them? How can we educate them? Is there something that you'd really want to touch on specifically with your journey, what you've learned, and maybe even saying yes, to you? If you want to touch on that now, that's great too. But like, what is it that people really get to do or be, or how can they shift that so that they awaken now versus getting to the rock bottom?
Yes. Great question. That's a great question. I get asked that a lot because there are a lot of people that have been touched by cancer, as an example, not they themselves, but they're like, hey, listen, I have an aunt, I have a mother, a father, a sister, whatever. And so they've been touched by an experience like that. I call it a Shaka Zulu,
yes,
experience, right? Where you just, it shakes your whole world. And they asked me that, how do I not get cancer and not have some devastating thing happen and yet put myself in the position to have this kind of awakening. Yeah. So I would say that, first of all, we have all had our brush with something that has been in our life. We've had either trauma or something happen in our lives where we can identify, we can hearken back to a time where we got through that. Yeah. We lived through it. We got through it. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think it's very easy for us to forget how much adversity we've already been through. We don't give ourselves credit for living through our childhood in some cases. Let's face it, some people who grew up to be adults and who are at all normal, by all rights, shouldn't be. So, look at your life first and look at the things that you've already encountered, gone through, adversity, death, destruction, whatever, your dark night of the soul. And I guarantee you can point to at least one, even if you're not going through it at the moment. And then ask yourself, if I had to go back, right, to that time and had this possibility of awakening during that time and gone through it differently, what would I have really feel into this? What would I have said yes to sooner, or that I didn't say yes to, right? What was trying to emerge? What did you learn from it, right? Because that's an indicator. What good came from it? What did you develop? What part of you grew because of it? But these are all indicators to go back and look. If you're not currently going through something, right. That's my best, or borrow from someone else. If you're close to someone who's been through something intense like that, really put yourself in that position, because it wasn't until I went down that internal path, lying on the floor saying, what if everything failed? What if my life failed? What if this effort failed? What if I lost everything? And I know that's a very scary thing to do, just by itself. Forget the cancer for a minute. Just that exercise alone, to get down to where are those deeper levels of resistance? What are those stories that say, but I can't be worthless and still love myself? I can't. The only way for me to love myself and say yes to me is if I'm performing, or if I'm doing this, or if I'm a good sister, a mother, whatever the case may be. Look for that, because those are going to be the pieces that are going to hold you back. Those are those parts of you that you haven't fully embraced yet.
This is gold. This is gold. So I really want to highlight what people can do. And I hear, ask yourself, what are you most afraid of? What are you most afraid of happening? And like really play that scenario out in your head. And someone who's listening right now, like go through this exercise, maybe not right now in the interview, because we still have a lot more value to deliver, and put it in your schedule, go through this. If you feel like you don't have the motivation, if you feel like you don't have the drive, if you're not connected to your purpose, to your greatness, if you're going through struggles, go through this so that you can get present to how powerful you are. So going back to the questions, it's really asking, what's the worst case scenario if I was, homeless, if I lost everyone and everything that I loved, all my money? And then the question at the end of that, like process, so to speak, at this like most real, raw, vulnerable part of our deepest fears and insecurities is, am I still lovable? Am I still, is it like, am I still a worthy human being? Am I still enough? Can I still accept myself as I am?
And it starts with you first, because before you think of this question externally, could I be lovable from someone else's perspective? That's a different question,
right?
But that's because if we can't honestly say, I would love and radically accept myself, then we can't ask others to love us more than we love ourselves in that way, right? So, I mean, really for me, would I still be me was a different version of it, but that came first.
Yeah.
Would I still be me? Like, if I was stripped away of all the ego stuff that we call ourselves, our house, our car, our career, our position in life, our title, mother, father, whatever, would I still be me? Like, what's the me that is me?
Yeah, and also like in
the
my
love.
perspective, I would say, would I still have the drive to be my greatest possible self and like serve people like that and get this message out to the world? You know, if I like got broke down to the most humble place saying like it didn't work, right? Or how I was showing up, it didn't produce the results that I thought I would, or I was wrong about what I had been betting on, would I still stand for these values of integrity and personal growth and love and kindness and respect? Like, would I still be me? So I love that. That's powerful.
And which comes from you still loving yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like you did all of that and you gave it your best and it just didn't work out the way you wanted it to. And your ego is feeling humiliated and fearful and angry and all of those things. And I'm not vilifying ego, but let's be sure that we don't allow the ego to take control and to be the one dictating our yeses, right? What we're saying yes to or what we're not willing to say yes to.
Yeah, it's like I love that you say that. Ego is in control when we're acquiring, when we're performing, when we're showing up in pursuit of something. We want more. We are receiving something that is fueling it, that's fueling its desire to acquire whatever that is. And it's like at that point of rock bottom or letting go of everything and being humbled, so to speak, then the ego doesn't have any more control. It's like, okay, so you want to like say that you control me, but I'm at this point of all I have left is myself. All I have left is my soul and my divine presence. How do I want to relate to myself? How do I choose to see myself and ultimately reflect that into the world?
Yes. And I had to allow my ego to die that day.
Wow.
Just, people say, have you had a near-death experience? I would say that was it.
Wow.
It felt that way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the cancer. I mean that process of feeling like I am willing to allow the death of the ego in order to fully embrace that deep inner yes. The yes that I knew was there, but I wasn't willing to say yes to it. I wasn't willing to say yes to that yes, because that meant so much about my life had to change and I had to be responsible for that. And so it's very easy to say, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my calling, I don't know my mission. And we allow ourselves this sort of very convenient lack of clarity, not really knowing what to say yes to because that fear is clouding it. And it's easier to let the ego go and just say, well, we'll just do that. That's easier.
This is powerful. Tracy, this is gold. And I want to pause and say this is amazing. I freaking acknowledge you for all that you've shared so far. And Tracy Wiseman out there in the audience says, so powerful. Thanks for sharing your story. And Jacina DeMarcos is very powerful, real talk. So thank you, Tracy and Jacina, for tuning in. And for anyone who's listening to this on the replay or iTunes, take a screenshot of this and post it up on Instagram, post it up on Facebook, wherever. And make sure you tag me. I'll tag Tracy, tag me at I Am Millionaire Chris. Tracy, how can they tag you on Instagram or in Facebook? Of course, they just search Tracey Thompson. But what's your Instagram, Tracy?
You know what? That's a good question. That was my partner's department. But I would imagine, hashtag La Femme Empire because I know that
boom shakalaka. There you go. I love it. Great. Hashtag La Femme Empire. Do that, and I'll make sure that we promote you out for sharing your big breakthrough from this, because this is gold, Tracy. So good. So I want to dive into the yes, right? What is this yes that you've been talking about? Saying yes to your yes. What is the yes? Teach us, Tracy.
Yes is such a powerful word. It's funny. It's just a simple little 3 words, but what the energy behind yes is. There's actually a lot of study on it, a lot of science behind this word. But to me, yes, when you're coming from that authentic, that deeper why, like what you were saying, like the why that makes you cry, right? Yeah. That inner space, your yes is fueled with so much power. It energizes you. It makes you feel alive. It crackles, right? It pops. It feels good. And even when you're doing it hard, when you're in that aligned yes, even hard doesn't feel hard in the same way that the hustle and grind and the I have to do this feels, right? So when you're in that zone where you know there's something deep within you that you should be saying yes to, in the sense that, you've been kind of skirting around it, or you've been hedging or saying later, or whatever that inner voice is, the yes is what unlocks it. It's like this, it's like a key, right? That the yes is the key. And when you turn it, it's amazing what's on the other side. There's so much that is hidden to us because we haven't said yes to it. Here's the irony. People are like, well, when I have this, then I can say yes. When I have that, or when I get here, or when I complete that, or, it's just after this project, then I'm going to say yes to that. Here's the rub about that. First of all, I always say, there's 7 days a week and some day isn't one of them.
That's right.
So, right. So, tomorrow is always tomorrow.
Yep.
Right. So the minute you, in this present moment, own your yes, say yes to your yes. And whatever that means, that you take an action. You never leave the scene of a yes without taking an action. That's the rule. The rule is, if you have a yes, you take one, even if it's a micro action, just one thing, you start taking action on it, right?
Wow.
But when you do that, then that's when you activate the reticular activator, right, in your brain. You activate the divine alliance, right, alignment. You call in help from the universe, from places. I mean, there's no way that I could have ever even imagined in my wildest dream. If I was a script writer, if I'd handed that script over to somebody, they would have said, no one's going to buy this. That's not realistic. And that's where we're going to make it purely like some fictional craziness.
Right.
You don't know. The problem is you don't know until you say yes. When you say yes, that's when you unlock and unleash help and resources and people and circumstances that you cannot see when you're on the other side.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. I love it. So it's like the yes is saying, it's almost like I give myself permission. I give myself permission to experience love, money, abundance, happiness, freedom, flow, purpose, whatever that is. It's like the gateway, the unlocking the key to open up to whatever it is that we desire, whatever is our highest and greatest possible self, our deepest and truths, like that which we're meant to really experience in this lifetime.
Absolutely. And one other thing I want to add to this is really powerful. This is a distinction about yes, that a lot of people have said, what role does no play? No, right? What do we say no to? Or how do we do? Because sometimes, especially as women, we sometimes have a hard time with boundaries, right? And saying, here's what I'm saying yes to. Here's the natural thing that happens. It just happens organically. When you say yes to something, one thing, and it is definitive, it's not vague, it's not, it's very specific, you automatically, by virtue of saying yes to that, are saying no to certain things, right? You don't even have to, quote, say no to things that are, it's just congruent with the yes. If it doesn't fit in the yes, if it's not aligned with the yes, then it's a no.
Yeah.
So it becomes very natural and easy to, quote, say no when you're aligned with your yes and you're being your yes, you're living your yes. So there's three aspects of the yeses. I call them the 3 C's.
I love it.
Right? The first is clarity.
Okay.
Getting clarity on what it is you need to say yes to. What's coming up for you? And usually it's a feeling that your ego will say, oh, that's great, but not right now. That's great, but you don't have the money. That's awesome, but whatever. Like almost like your ego sort of pats your spirit on the head and goes, oh, that's so sweet. No, not right now. That's usually, or worse, the ego goes, oh, hell no. Yeah. Are you crazy? Do you know who's going to hate you because of that? Do you know who's going to judge you because of fear, right? The fear voice. Yeah. Usually that's an indicator if it's coming from within and it's bubbling up and the voices get really loud. That's a really true yes. That's a yes that is beckoning and calling you. So clarity is number one. The C is committed action. You ever leave the scene of a yes, right? A committed action. And committed action requires that you have commitment. So it's not just, right? It's inspired, committed action. And it's constant action, right? Clarity, action, clarity, action. And so those two you cycle through pretty often, right? Clarity, getting clarity. And you know what? Action gives you feedback. So you take an action, you're like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. I failed, whatever. Then you get clarity on what didn't work and you start again. You take committed action. And then the third C is conviction. And conviction is where you live, breathe, eat your yes. It doesn't matter. There aren't excuses in conviction. There aren't, the winds that blow, the things that life throws at you. It's you're steadfast in it. That's what I say when I say be your yes, right? Be your yes. That's the third C. So that's the completion of that cycle. And then of course from conviction, once you're there and you're in that stable place where you live, breathe, eat this yes, then a new yes is going to emerge. It's never ends. Your spirit will always bring the next level of yes. But now you have a pattern of living your yes, and it has a momentum, right?
So I hear that yes can be both like kind of a temporary thing in terms of, hey, what season of life am I in that I'm exploring yes and saying yes and using the 3 C's of clarity, committed action, and conviction to like operate from my yes. And then also kind of zooming out to the bigger theme of this interview, which is like your purpose, saying yes to your purpose and operating from there. Do you go through work to get people clarity on their purpose first, or do you start with saying, hey, I just want to teach you how to say yes first and just operate with the basic tools, these basic muscles, and then we'll hook those up to some bigger divine purpose? How does it work for you?
That's a great question. It's really both, because I believe in micro yeses, right? Yep. The power of micro yeses. I don't care if it's something like, okay, I'm going to switch my second cup of coffee to tea.
Oh.
Mine says be awesome, by the way.
See? I see that. And it's purple, right?
That's right. So if it's, even that, yes, that's a commitment. And the action is the next morning, you have that second, instead of the second cup of coffee, you have tea. So that's a micro yes. So I start people with micro yeses right away. Like get your yes muscles. Go to the yes gym. Yeah. Start building those up. And here's a little hack, a little trick. Okay. Anytime you are ready to say yes to something and then something comes up, some resistance, some, voice in your head, or some circumstance, outer circumstance, and you feel like you have to say no, like there's a no bubbling up, like no, not right now, whatever. I want you to do this. Say to yourself, yes, and. Okay. So still say yes to something that is closer to the yes. Wow. Right? It's like yes, and tomorrow I'm going to, I'm going to actually do the full, this full yes, the full, let's say someone invites me to a place where they don't have tea. Right. And I can't have my second cup of tea. As simple as that is, you say yes to the date, to the, I'm going to meet you. I'll have water, whatever. You didn't have coffee, but you say yes to water, and tomorrow I'm having the tea. Right. So always tell yourself yes, and. Yeah. And that's a way to kind of condition yourself to not feel like everything is black and white.
Right. And it's like, I think for me, what came up is a lot of times people have a challenge of maintaining a level of productivity, getting a certain amount of posts out, making a certain amount of calls, sending messages, whatever it might be. And it's like, if if we like fall short, let's say we make a commitment, 5 messages, 5 calls a day, whatever it is, and at the end of the day, it's like, I only did 1. Well, it's like, yes, I did 1. Like, that's awesome. And I'll do even better tomorrow. Like, I'll show up with even more resilience. I'll refine my schedule. I'll adjust the calendar so I have more time. I'll eliminate the distractions, whatever else it might be. It's like, say yes to what is already like working and what feels good, what's in flow, and then refine to get more aligned with that.
Yes, exactly. I love that. So yes, and is really powerful because it again, the reticular activator. It's like, I'm going to say yes, and. So even when it's a quote, no, or, some form of what feels like no, you kind of just bypass that piece and say, okay, how can I say yes and right now? Yes, I made 1 call. I said yes to, and I made that call, right? Yeah. And this is what I learned. And here's how I can do it better. And tomorrow I'm going to employ ABCD based on the feedback. So it's a great exercise.
This is beautiful. I want to talk about boundaries because we talked about that already. Let's say people are wanting to get a hold of you, Tracey, and they're sending you messages and like you're juggling so much and you want to be able to serve people and be there for them and communicate with them. And you also have your priorities and managing your energy effectively. How do you say yes and in that situation where maybe you're not able to respond immediately?
That's great. And it's a great example because those of us who, especially entrepreneurs who work at home or work in an environment where other people may not understand, it's not like we go to an office and whether it's family or even clients sometimes, it's like, hey, you're not doing anything else anyway. I'm like, sure, you're just sitting at home. This is important. This is really important. So if I have people that are kind of trying to come into my space, because I do a lot of block time. Yeah. And I'm personally, when I get into flow and I have intentional blocks of time for flow, that's another little entrepreneurial hack, by the way, block time for flow. So when I'm in flow, I make the decision ahead of time. How am I, what are my yes commitments? What are my yes contracts with myself? How am I going to handle that? So I have a plan ahead of time. So it doesn't take me off guard. Like someone pings, messages me. If I made that yes contract with myself, I'm just not going to respond. If that's my choice, you say, yes, and yes, I will respond and I will do it later. Right? Beautiful. So you're not saying I'm not going to respond. You're saying, yes, I will respond at 5:00 or, right? Yeah. And then you put that yes in a specific framework for yourself. Then and if it requires that you interact with someone else during that time, for example, you can similarly say to them, yes, I absolutely want to talk to you. Let's do it at 5:00 or after.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, yes, I love receiving this attention. I love that you want to have a conversation with me. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And how do we do this on a time that works for both of us? How do we do this in a way in scheduling it that works for us, for both of us? Yes, I would love to talk to you, and let's use my scheduler to book it into a calendar that has my most up-to-date availability. Exactly.
And it's so subtle in the, people won't even notice consciously, but your soul, your psyche, your ego even knows, right? Because you're training the ego to not run roughshod over you, and get out of the old patterns and create new ones. So that's a great new habit and pattern to create. Yes, and.
And it's totally contrary to what might default come up for people, which is uh-oh, or no, or stay away, or like I'm in trouble, like these shame, guilt, like, oh, I don't want to say no. It's like feeling that stress and anxiety come up versus, heck yes, I want to have this conversation, and here's how it works.
Right. And let's just let's say it's somebody you don't want to talk to. Let's even go there. So what if it's something that's like, it's a hard no in your mind. You're like, this is just, align. Like I've already told this person or whatever, this is a no for me. So how can you turn that into a yes and, right? So in that case, you need the yes to be about you. So the yes, if it's a no to someone else or something else external, then the yes and starts with you. So yes, you remember I made that commitment to myself. That's my yes. Yes, and then I'm going to handle it this way because that's in alignment with my yes. So you're still in the yes energy. You're still in the yes, because I love myself and I honor my time, I am going to do this. And that may include not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So do you see how yes automatically cuts away the no's without having to push no, right? Yeah. You don't have to push anything away when you're on your yes path.
Wow. It's like it's matter of fact versus defending. It's like, here's the signpost, just so you know, versus I got to ward this person off because I feel all the stuff that comes up. It's like,
you think about it as like a traffic sign.
Yeah.
It's a stop sign, right? It says stop, or the speed limit, right? The speed limit says 65 miles an hour. Now you have a choice. You're going to honor that, but it doesn't down. It doesn't, bang on your window of your car and say, hey, it's 65. It's 65. No, it's just, those are rules, right? Yes. And when we say, yes, these are my guidelines, these are my yes lines, then anything else is just gets cut away automatically.
I wanted to dive into about knowing what are our values and knowing what are the contracts and agreements that we have for our yeses so that we can be equipped to handle those kinds of situations when they come up. Can you give us any wisdom around that, Tracey?
Yes, values are so important. In fact, I would say values is such a hot topic. I love talking about values because, it's such a juicy topic. Values are something that I think a lot of people, they have an interesting concept or idea about what values are. To me, values are really more deeply aligned with our true inner, what drives us, our inner drives, than what we say we want. So I think a lot of people use values in the context of like goals or wishes, or, I say with my mouth that my family is my most important value. But when you look at my life, let's say, it doesn't look like that. It's out of alignment with what I'm saying my values are. So I help people go through, in fact, I just taught this recently, how to ask, there's 13 questions, they're values clarity questions. And when they ask themselves these 13 questions, their values become crystal clear. Now, they may not like what they're looking at, but at the core, again, the yes sometimes is buried in the truth of those values. So if, let's say, you're saying family is the most important, but you spend 12 to 14 hours a day working. Okay. So then you go, well, my value, what is my value? What's the value that's driving the work? Okay, the work is the activity that I'm engaging in, but what's the true value underneath that? Now, this invites you to go deeper and say, what is it about the work that is motivating me and compelling me to spend so much time there? And you start pulling that apart because there's probably more than one, and family is probably in there. So there's different ways to honor family. In some cases, you spend the time at work because you're trying to provide a shelter, home and food and whatever, and it's a necessity. And that is honoring your commitment and value of family. It's just different than, let's say, time spent with family. You see what I'm saying? So there's different expressions of ways. When you drill down to what the real values are, then you can start looking at how to express them, how you express values, how you execute values in your day-to-day life. That's where you can make changes. That's where you can say yes to something else.
Mm.
Because it may be that you were convinced with an old story that work was the only, like working 14 hours a day was the only way to put bread on the table and the only way to keep your commitment, to keep your family safe. Let's just say that's the core story. Now now that you see that's the main value, then you can say, all right, so if I were really truly following my heart here, and I were doing things that were more in alignment with what lights me up, what makes me happy, how could I do that and honor my family by making money a different way, not working 12 hours a day, so then I could also spend time with my family. You see what I'm saying? So you start reframing this. Yes, right? What could I say yes to that's different? How can I accomplish the same, be aligned with the same value in a different way, in a new way, a more powerful way?
Wow. So it's like having clarity on the values that drive us. It's important to be able to feed those, or make sure that we're fulfilling that. And is there a better, more efficient, higher way to do it? I think almost always there is going to be better ways to deliver on that which is important to us and to fulfill those values. So it's like really going into how could I fulfill this value of work, of putting food on the table, of spending quality time with my family without working 12 hours a day, without sacrificing, or without doing these other things. So I think it's having that awareness gives us better actions and options to choose from.
And also when you're in it, and this is such an important distinction, when you're in the activity that you're doing, whatever it is that you're choosing to do, when you do it consciously and you do it from the yes energy, you say to yourself, I'm sitting down and I'm doing this, right? I'm going to work until 6 o'clock today. And I am fully in my yes. I know why I'm doing it. I know who I'm serving, what values I'm fulfilling. And I am wholeheartedly right in the center of my yes. Wow. So there is no room for guilt, for shame, for feeling bad or whatever when you're in that space. So if you're sitting down and you're doing something and there's some part of you that's saying, but I'm not spending time with my kids right now, stop for a moment and go, okay, so why am I doing this right now? Let me reconnect with that. Oh, that's right. This is part of how I serve my family. So I'm in alignment. So I can be fully in my yes right now. Be present with that. That's the equation for happiness.
Oh my gosh. This is gold. Tracey, this is freaking awesome and super powerful. And I know our audience is getting a ton of value out of it. So we're going to tell them how they can stay connected with you, how they can continue their journey with you. And then we'll wrap up with the minute to win it, which is a heartfelt message for someone out there who really needs some encouragement and empowerment to step into their GPS. So let's tell them how they can stay connected with you first. How can they continue their journey with you, Tracey?
Well, there's a couple ways. I would say certainly you're invited to come to our FemmeEmpire.com website. You can check us out. We got freebies there. It's awesome. But our community is really the place. That's our hub, and that is La Femme Empire. Yes, 2 millions community. So look us up in Facebook. Request to become a member. It's a warm place. Everybody there are conscious entrepreneurs, and we support and love each other. Angela and I try to provide as much value to that community as often as possible. And of course, if you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can reach me at Tracey, Tracey, at LaFemmeEmpire.com.
So beautiful. So LaFemmeEmpire.com, and you also go to Facebook.com/groups/La Femme Empire, or Say Yes to Millions. Is that what they would search for on groups on Facebook?
Yeah, you can write in. In fact, it's funny because if somebody types in yes, we're one of the first people to talk about a keyword search.
Wow. Wow.
Right? Yes, we come up. So yeah.
That's incredible. And then they can email you as well, Tracey, Tracey, at LaFemmeEmpire.com.
Yes.
Sweet. Awesome. Beautiful. Everyone freaking stay connected with Tracey. And she's definitely going to be coming back on again in the future because like this conversation flew by. I don't know about you, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's already been a freaking hour. Jeez.
That's flow, baby. That's flow. That's exactly what it is.
You have so much yes around you, Tracey. It's contagious.
Yes.
I love it. So let's give some of this beautiful, epic, empowering energy to someone out there who's committed to stepping into their greatest possible self, and they need to hear a dose of your message, Tracey. Give it to them.
Awesome. So if you're in a place right now where you're feeling called, and I believe that anybody who would be listening to this show right now falls into this category. You're feeling it right now. You're feeling this energy. Whether you're in a crisis or a transition or a dark night of the soul, or you're in a high and in a momentum place, here's the thing. There's a next level for you, right? I mean, so close. It's right there. It's already materialized. The universe, people, it's all rallying for you, for your good. And it's just on the other side of that next yes. So feel into what's emerging and tune into your intuition. Trust that. Just take one yes, committed action. Let it come up. Even if it scares you, it's okay. And if you want support with your yes, come to our group. I love supporting yesers, right? You be a yes woman, be a yes man. And I want to encourage you to do it. I promise you, there is good on the other side.
Tracey, so good and epic. You're an amazing human being. Everyone stay connected with Tracey Thompson. She is a legend. And just being around here, you are absolutely going to grow. Tracey, I appreciate your heart and all that you've grown through too. Like your journey is just, being able to share that now is so powerful. And for people who might be going through something similar or worse situation, or, just they're struggling, you're such a breath of fresh air. And hey, there's options for you. There's a choice of how you show up going through this, and it's
absolutely. And I have a lot of people who reach out to me when they are in a cancer situation, so I'm always happy to talk to people about that.
You're such a giver, such a beautiful heart. I love it, Tracey. Thank you so much for being here, and
yes.
We look forward to having you back on again in the future. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yes. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.